In 1969, between the 20th and the 21st of July, a man with light eyes, wearing a white suit and the head in a space helmet, set his foot on the lunar surface. As we all know, his name was Neil Armstrong. However, only few people remember that behind him there was a guy named Buzz Aldrin. Just like Neil, Buzz did his job, but I'm not saying that he has been forgotten. But for sure he has not received the same glory of his friend, only because he was not the first, the number one, and he did it with grace. There's a novel in this regard that is called Buzz Aldrin, What Happened to You in All the Confusion. This is the book that of course I recommend you, that has nothing to do with the moon landing, but that is about the elegance and the grace that sometimes comes from the desire to not want to be the first in line at any cost, especially in a world like ours, in which appearance and excessive protagonism often create disasters. But apart from my opinion, let's go back to Neil and Buzz. What did they see after the moon landing? They saw a surface full of holes and craters, a kind of surface I always think about whenever I look through the scanning electron microscope that is in our lab, especially when I look at polished and overlapped ceramic whose surfaces have not been protected by any treatment yet. These holes are not visible to a naked eye, but they are very similar to those of the moon. And so, here we are. Today's topic is all about ceramic surface protection treatments and the problem that may arise even after the process. What is the mode of action? What do we need to know about it? I am Davide Trentini, and this is Apparently Invisible: Chemistry in Ceramic. As most of you probably know, the lapping and the polishing processes that are necessary to provide ceramic tiles with specific aesthetic features both involve the removal of a very thin layer of glaze. And even if this layer, and so the removed material, is very, very thin, these processes may bring out to the surface all that micro-porosities that are inside the glaze. And since they are no more protected and sealed, the pores are exposed to many kinds of attack. And for sure, the first is dirt. The dirt, in fact, once it has entered the pores, is nearly impossible to remove. And this is, as you can imagine, a very serious problem that affects over time the aesthetic features of a floor. But there's more. The lapping process brings also to the surface some deep layers of glaze with a less mechanically resistant solid states. Given this scenario, we also know that on the market are available for years now several sealant products able to restore the original features of the surface and therefore able, in many cases, to solve the problem. These are mostly nanometric colloidal silica-based products, and from a chemical point of view, they can be considered as inorganic vitreous and silica-based polymers. But how the colloidal silica behaves on the surface? The colloidal silica, once applied and spread on the tiles by means of proper tools, and here we might digress talking about the wide range of tools used in the process that of course differently affect the result, but this is not our focus, even if we will talk about it later just a little. Anyway, I was saying the colloidal silica enters the open pores, creating several multi-layers that fill the holes which are at the top of the ceramic surface. This process that spread the protection product on the surface produces at the same time the gradual evaporation of the water that contains the silica nanoparticles. In other words, we could say that silica remain without their solvent. So, in summary, first, the protective product is applied to the ceramic surface. Second, the solid part of the suspension fills the pore. Third, the liquid part, so the water, evaporates. At the end of the evaporation process, that by the way is also promoted by the tools that heat the surface by friction, The result is a seal made of compacted amorphous silica. And this is what happens when the process is properly developed. But sometimes we might be forced to face different kind of problem. Or even better, we could say that even if the surface protection treatments are very efficient, sometimes the surface cannot be declared 100% resistant to dirt and chemical attack. Why? Let's try to explain it in simple words. The seal that is formed inside the pore rapidly and violently loses the water because of the evaporation process. We get it. And this phenomenon produces an effect that is comparable to those that happen on the ground fields during the summer. What happens? When it's very hot and the sun does its job, the mud dries, the earth recedes, and the cracks are formed. And this is exactly what happened in the pores of the ceramic surface. And so the very tiny cracks that are formed due to the violent evaporation partially compromise the protective action of the treatment. But that's not all. In the most extreme cases, the silica can collapse, producing a big hole. And this means, of course, that dirty elements as well as particularly aggressive chemical agent can slip between the cracks, reaching the deepest part of the pore. At that point, since it goes under the silica seals, and this is very important to underline, it is impossible to remove any kind of dirt. So, what can we do to prevent these problems? Basically, we can act in two directions that both involve the product and the application machine. Let's start from the latter. Before working on the product formulation, in fact, it is important to check the setup of the application machine and, if necessary, make all those variations that can improve the application performance. For example, it is necessary to choose the best application system to spread the product inside the pores according to the material that must be treated and trying to reach a uniform and constant distribution. In this regards, we are talking about roller, sponges, or drop application system. In addition, it is possible to increase or decrease the pressure and the rotation speed of the tools on the tile in order to change the product distribution and the temperature of the ceramic material. These two tricks, apparently trivial, are instead very crucial. After checking the setup of the application machine, it is of course possible also to work on the protective product. And any modification must take into consideration two significant aspects that can affect the result: the type of silica and the features of the surface to be treated. But among all the possible interventions, which can be the most effective? For sure, the first is to adjust the weight of the product to be applied. What does that mean? It means that by changing the amount of product, it is possible to test and check the different kind of seals that are formed, choosing, of course, the one that meets your needs. It is also possible to use a colloidal silica with a different concentration or with a different particle distribution inside the suspension. And as a third option, it could be important to try to reach, more generally, a different balance between the ingredients of the suspension by modifying the formulation with proper additives able to control and create a more appropriate kind of seal. That said, despite all these actions, the issue sometimes may persist due to the silica very nature. What does that mean? It means that we must remember that the amorphous colloidal silica-based seal is marked by a grid able to absorb some staining and chemical agents. And this is because we are basically talking about a porous and absorbent system. And to be honest, but without being drastic or dramatic, we have to admit that it's very difficult or even impossible to get a protection product able to cover that 100% of the cases. But if this is the scenario, it is important to know that a new generation of polymeric products is currently under examination, and in some cases already available. These products act on a molecular level since they are able to be absorbed and chemically bind to the silica grade that has previously sealed the pore. Once they have been applied, these products integrate with the system, leading to a definitive sealing of the cracks. In summary, colloidal silica offers, on the one hand, several benefits such as resistance to acid, durability, no change in color of the ceramic material under UV action. On the other hand, they tend to create inhomogeneous and amorphous grades marked by mechanical tension that can lead to the formation of cracks and collapses. The new generation of polymeric products instead chemically react by creating a real and mostly impenetrable film. For sure, we will talk about this last category of products in one of the next episodes, deepening their chemical features and the benefits that they can provide. But now, we should say goodbye, and so, as usual, I thank you for being with us, and I remind you that all podcasts are available on the main platform, such as Spotify or Apple and Google Podcasts, and on our app, together with many other contents that you can download for free on Apple Store or Google Play. You just need to type Z and S Ceramco, or apparently invisible. From the lunar crust, full of craters and holes, I greet you. See you soon.